Are you interested in urban food production approaches? Our summary today works with the article titled Validating the City-Region Food System Approach, Enacting Inclusive Transformational City-Region Food Systems from 2018 by Alison Blay-Palmer, Guido Santini, Marielle Dubbeling, Henk Renting, Makiko Taguchi, and Thierry Giordano, published in the MDPI Sustainability Journal. This is a great preparation to our next panel conversation in episode 300 about urban food production with Adam Dorr, Nadun Hennayaka, and Simon Burt. Since we're investigating the future of cities, I thought it would be interesting to see how we can improve urban food systems. This article presents the history and potential future of city-region food systems to allow cross-section engagement and collaboration for better urban futures.
What is the future for cities? Do you want to learn more about them? Do you want to know how others think about them? Do you want to be part of the conversation? Then this is the right place.
Welcome to today's What is the Future for Cities podcast and its research episode. My name is Fanny, and today I will introduce a research paper by summarizing it. The episode really is just a short summary of the original paper, and in case it is interesting enough, I would encourage everyone to check out the whole paper. This is also an experiment, as I produced and generated the summary part with Notebook LM as two hosts dissecting the whole report.
We're diving deep today into something pretty fascinating. It's called City-Region Food Systems, or CRFS for short. I'm excited to learn more about how cities and their surrounding areas can better team up on, well, something we all need: food.
It's a really cool concept. CRFS is all about recognizing that there doesn't have to be such a hard line between urban and rural when it comes to food. It's about understanding those connections, those food networks, and how they can benefit everyone.
Benefits, huh? Like what? Give me the good stuff.
Think more people being able to get fresh food easily, more jobs closer to where people actually live, and economies that are stronger and more local. Oh, and did I mention a healthier environment? It's all connected.
Okay, I'm sold. But why is this CRFS thing such a hot topic all of a sudden? What's driving this shift?
Well, it's not like it just appeared out of thin air. I mean, the reality is more and more people are living in cities now than ever before, which means we need to think differently about how to get food to everyone, especially in a way that actually works.
So the old way of doing things, like cities just importing food from who knows where, isn't really cutting it anymore.
We're kind of realizing that cities and the areas around them need each other, like they're part of the same system. And CRFS is like a roadmap for making that system work.
Okay, roadmap, I like it, but I need something more concrete. Can you give me a real-world example of this CRFS thing in action?
Oh, absolutely. Let's head down to Rosario in Argentina. Back in 2001, they had a huge economic crisis. And, well, they got creative. They decided to create this thing called a horticultural green belt right around the city.
Hold on, did they build a wall of vegetables around Rosario?
Not quite a wall. It's more like a protected area dedicated to growing fresh produce.
Oh, okay. So city-supported farms. What was the impact of that?
Oh, it was a big win. Not only did they see more healthy food available for city residents, but they also created new jobs and a shot in the arm for the local economy.
Sounds like they're onto something. Did they keep going with it, though?
Oh, yeah. They took this Greenbelt success and ran with it. Started implementing more eco-friendly farming practices, like cutting down on harmful chemicals. And get this, they created direct markets where farmers could sell straight to the people.
Wow. So everyone wins. Farmers get better prices, people get fresher food. That's impressive. So they really built a food system that was stronger and more sustainable.
Yep. Rosario is a great example of how CRFS can make a real difference. And it's not just happening in Argentina either. Let's jump over to Medellin, Colombia. They did the CRFS assessment to see, what they were doing well and what needed work.
Ooh, self-reflection. What did they find out? Were there any big surprises?
Yeah, one thing they realized was that they were too focused on the city itself. They needed to better connect with the region around them to really move forward.
So did they, invite all the farmers to a city council meeting?
Well, not exactly. But they did form this task force called Alianza por el Buen Vivir. It brought together all kinds of people, city folks, regional folks, even the government. The goal was to get everyone talking and working together.
That seems like a pretty important first step. Did this collaboration actually lead to anything concrete?
For sure. One of the things they focused on was connecting low-income consumers with local producers.
Wait, so bringing fresh, affordable food directly to the people who needed it most.
Yep, that's the idea. It was this win-win, addressing both food access and economic development.
It sounds like they were serious about making this CRFS thing work for everybody.
They really were. They even started thinking about food when planning the city. Encouraging community gardens, setting up pop-up markets, just making food a part of the city's life.
So it's about more than just policies and programs. It's about changing how we interact with food every day, even in the way we design our cities.
Absolutely. Medellin really shows that CRFS is about thinking outside the box and, getting creative with food.
This is great. It feels like we're uncovering all these amazing solutions for a better food future.
And you know what? We've got even more cool examples. Let's go check out Quito, Ecuador. They already had this fantastic urban agriculture program called Adrupar, but CRFS pushed them to think even bigger.
Okay, so they were already rocking urban gardens, right? How did CRFS change things for them?
Well, they actually developed this really interesting concept called 3 rings of food self-sufficiency.
3 rings, that sounds intriguing. Break that down for me. What's each ring about?
The first ring, that's all about boosting food production within the city itself. Think rooftop gardens, community plots, even farms built right into buildings. Getting creative.
Okay, so maximizing what the city can grow. What about ring number 2?
That one focuses on the surrounding region, strengthening those relationships with nearby producers to get the food they can't grow themselves.
So it's like building a safety net, right?
Yeah.
Making sure they have multiple sources of food. What about that 3rd ring?
That one acknowledges that, not everything can be grown locally, so it deals with imports and trade. But the idea is to really prioritize those first 2 rings as much as possible, building a strong base of local and regional food production.
That's smart. So they're not cutting themselves off from the world, but they're definitely putting local food first. It's like they're creating a more resilient food system, right? Less vulnerable to disruptions and shocks.
Exactly. And Quito is a perfect example of how CRFS can be adapted to fit different places. They took what they were already good at, their urban agriculture program, and expanded their thinking to include the entire region.
Okay, so these examples are seriously inspiring. It's awesome to see how cities are using CRFS to create such positive change, but I gotta imagine it's not always smooth sailing. Are there any challenges or roadblocks we need to be aware of?
Yeah, for sure. Anytime you're trying to implement a complex system like this, there are going to be challenges. One of the first things you run into is, how do you even define the boundaries of a city-region food system? It's not as easy as it sounds.
I can imagine. It's not like there's a big sign that says city region food system starts here.
Right.
So where do you even begin?
There's no one-size-fits-all answer. Some cities might start with the political boundaries that already exist, like using counties or provinces as a guide. Others might try to actually analyze the flow of food and resources to understand those connections we've been talking about.
So following the food trails to map out the region.
Exactly. It's about understanding the relationships within the system. And some cities might even use a mix of those approaches, kind of adjusting their boundaries as they go and learn more.
Flexibility is key. But even with clear boundaries, wouldn't just getting the data be a huge challenge? Especially when you're dealing with different regions and all their different ways of keeping records.
Oh, absolutely. Data availability is definitely a hurdle. Sometimes the information they need just isn't there, or it's all over the place. And that makes it really tough to get a clear picture of the food system and figure out what needs to change.
So what can be done about that? Is it just a matter of throwing more money at the problem, or is there a better way?
It's probably a bit of both, honestly. Sometimes you do need resources to gather and analyze data, but the process itself can actually lead to more collaboration, which is a good thing. When everyone comes together to share info and build that shared understanding of the food system, it strengthens those partnerships.
Okay, so data challenges can lead to stronger collaborations. That's a silver lining I didn't expect. But even with good data and boundaries, I imagine getting everyone on board is a whole other beast. You've got farmers, urban planners, businesses, community groups, all with their own perspectives and priorities.
You're so right. Getting everyone involved is crucial for CRFS to work. It's about creating a space where all those different voices can be heard and everyone feels like they have a say in shaping their food future.
So not just top-down decision-making.
Nope. It's about building consensus, finding common ground, and really fostering a sense of ownership. This can be especially tricky when you're dealing with different levels of government, each with their own agendas.
Yeah, navigating those political waters can't be easy. Is it even possible to get everyone rowing in the same direction?
It definitely takes strong leadership. Think of it like conducting an orchestra. A good CRFS leader brings together all the different players, harmonizes their strength, and creates this beautiful symphony of collaboration.
I love that analogy. But seriously, what makes a good CRFS leader? What should we be looking for?
Well, they need to be visionaries, able to paint a picture of a better future and get people excited about it. They got to be great communicators, building trust and bridging those divides between all those different groups. And maybe most importantly, they need to be persistent, resilient, because implementing CRFS is a long game. There are going to be challenges and setbacks along the way.
So diplomacy, strategic thinking, and a whole lot of determination. Sounds like a tough job.
It is. It is. But even the best leader can't do it alone. You need community support. CRFS can't be forced on people. It has to come from the ground up. It needs that passion from people who really want to see a better food future for their communities.
It's about empowering people to take ownership of their food system, right? To become active participants in shaping that future.
Yeah.
But I have to ask, are there any potential downsides to this whole CRFS approach? Could it backfire in some way, like maybe make existing inequalities worse?
That's a really important question to think about. While CRFS has a lot of potential for good, it's crucial to be mindful of the potential pitfalls, to make sure these initiatives are done in a way that's truly equitable and sustainable.
Okay, so let's talk about those concerns. What are some of the things we need to watch out for?
One concern is that without careful planning, these CRFS initiatives could actually end up benefiting the wealthier folks or the big agricultural producers more than anyone else. And that could leave smaller farmers and low-income communities, the people who need it most, struggling to keep up.
So it's about making sure everyone has access and avoiding a situation where only the privileged few get to enjoy those fresh, local goodies.
Exactly. You have to consider affordability, accessibility, and the unique needs of all the different communities within the city region.
Makes sense. Are there any other potential challenges we should keep in mind?
Well, another one is the sheer complexity of trying to coordinate between all these different groups and governing bodies. Like we said before, CRFS requires collaboration between urban and rural folks, different levels of government, community organizations, you name it.
So it's not just about getting everyone in the same room. It's about making sure they can actually work together effectively.
Communication, clear roles, and a shared understanding of the goals are all essential for navigating those complexities.
It sounds kind of like trying to organize a giant potluck, right?
Yeah.
Everyone brings their own dish, but you got to make sure it all comes together into a cohesive meal. But what about the CRFS framework itself? Could there be issues with how adaptable it is or how it's implemented in different places?
Yeah, that's a great question. One potential challenge is that CRFS needs to be adaptable and flexible. What works in one city region might not work in another.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
Not at all. You got to be willing to experiment, learn from your mistakes, and adjust based on what's happening locally. It's about constant improvement, like fine-tuning a recipe until you hit that perfect flavor profile.
Speaking of flavor, let's shift gears for a sec and talk about the delicious possibilities. If we can overcome these challenges, what are the potential rewards of embracing this whole CRFS approach?
Oh, the rewards are huge. Remember those examples we talked about earlier? Rosario showed us that CRFS can not only boost access to healthy food, but also drive policy changes that support local farmers and sustainable agriculture.
It's like this ripple effect of good stuff spreading throughout the whole city region.
Exactly. And then you have Medellin, where they focused on connecting low-income folks with local producers. That shows how CRFS can tackle food security and economic development at the same time. And then there's Quito, with their 3 rings concept. They demonstrated how this framework can really build resilience by strengthening those local and regional food connections.
It's incredible to see how CRFS is making such a tangible difference in people's lives.
Yeah.
But are the benefits limited to just food-related stuff? Could this approach have a wider impact?
Oh, that's where it gets really interesting. The beauty of CRFS is that it has the potential to spark positive change across all sorts of interconnected challenges. It's not just about food, it's about building stronger, healthier, and more sustainable communities as a whole.
Okay, so CRFS is like this amazing tool for positive change, but I'm still a little fuzzy on the details. Can you give me some specific examples of how it can tackle those broader challenges you mentioned?
You bet. By making sure everyone has access to healthy food, supporting those smaller scale farmers, and creating jobs in both the city and the surrounding areas, CRFS can really help close that gap between the haves and the have-nots.
So it's like using food as a way to promote social justice and give people more economic power.
And when you think about it, food insecurity often goes hand in hand with poverty and lack of access to resources. CRFS can help break down those barriers.
It's like weaving a stronger social safety net, using food as the thread. Pretty powerful stuff. But what about the environmental impact? How does CRFS help create a healthier planet?
Oh, the environmental benefits are huge. CRFS encourages sustainable farming practices, reduces food waste, and promotes more localized food production. All good things for the environment.
So less pollution, fewer emissions, a lighter footprint on our natural resources. It's a win-win for everyone, including Mother Earth.
Absolutely. By shortening those transportation distances and supporting eco-friendly farming methods, CRFS can really help us fight climate change and protect biodiversity.
It's about realizing that our food choices have a direct impact on the planet and making those choices with both our stomachs and the environment in mind. But you mentioned other areas where CRFS can have an impact. What else can you tell me?
Imagine community gardens becoming these vibrant hubs where people come together, across generations and backgrounds, or schools incorporating local food and food education into their curriculum, teaching kids about healthy choices and where their food comes from.
I love that. It's about transforming our relationship with food, taking it from something purely transactional to something more holistic, more connected.
Exactly. And think about the potential for CRFS to improve public health, increasing access to fresh fruits and veggies, promoting sustainable farming practices that reduce those harmful chemicals, cutting down on food waste. It all adds up to a healthier food environment for everyone.
It's about realizing that food is medicine and that our food choices directly affect our physical and mental well-being.
Absolutely. And when you strengthen those local food systems, you create more resilient communities that are better equipped to handle those tough challenges like climate change, economic downturns, even public health emergencies.
It's like building a multi-layered safety net for our communities, one delicious and sustainable thread at a time. So what's the key takeaway for our listeners today? What's the one thing we want them to remember about CRFS?
It's pretty simple, really. CRFS is a way to think big about our food systems while taking action locally. It's about recognizing that our cities and the regions around them are interconnected and then working together to create a more just, sustainable, and delicious food future for everyone.
And on that note, we encourage all of you to take a moment and think about the connections between your own city and the food it consumes. What steps can you take to support a more resilient and equitable food system in your community?
What is the Future for Cities podcast?